Okay.
I got it.
Good evening, PWCS families, and welcome to the Family Engagement Series. My name is Yanette Boyd, and I am the Supervisor for Family and Community Engagement. Today's session is Overcoming Language Barriers, Getting Information from PWCS in Your Preferred Language. Today's presentation will be presented in the requested languages of English, French, and Spanish, and will be recorded.
Shall
We'll
I?
begin interpretation once this slide is reviewed in the requested languages. If you're on your computer, you're going to look for the interpretation button on your control bar. Once you click on it, pick your desired language, then your icon should change. If you're on your phone, click on the Join Audio and click Call over Internet. Click on the three dots and more. Click on Language Interpretation and click on the language you want and done. At this time, the French interpreter will review the slide.
Bonjour à tous. Effectivement, dans cette réunion PWCS, nous allons parler de ce thème très intéressant, surmonter les barrières linguistiques. Je suis la responsable, je m'appelle Yannette Boyd. Alors, concernant l'interprétation en français, si vous écoutez cette interprétation par l'intermédiaire de votre ordinateur, vous devriez trouver ce petit icône en bas de votre écran. Et il faut sélectionner la langue, donc le français ou l'espagnol. Et ensuite, sur la droite, si vous utilisez votre téléphone portable, eh bien, écoutez, vous devriez avoir également cette possibilité. Vous devez faire clic sur Audio, et également sur Internet. Et ensuite, il y a trois petits points. Et ensuite, il faut choisir la langue en français. Voilà, done. Thank you, Yannette.
Thank you. At this time, the Spanish interpreter will review the slide.
Buenas noches, familias de las escuelas de Prince William County, y bienvenidos a la serie de participación de la familia. Mi nombre es Janet Voigt y yo soy la supervisora para la participación de la comunidad y la familia. La sesión de hoy es la superación de las barreras del idioma, la obtención de la información en el idioma de su preferencia en las escuelas de Prince William County. La presentación de hoy, nosotros vamos a presentar en el idioma, en el idioma en inglés, español y francés, y todo va a ser grabado. Vamos a comenzar con la interpretación de los slides una vez que sean revisados por el idioma requerido. En su computadora, ustedes van a ver un botón de interpretación en la barra de control. Una vez que ustedes lo pulsen, ustedes podrán elegir el idioma deseado. Entonces, el icono cambiará. Ustedes van a unirse al audio y van a poder pulsar el globo, tendrán que el internet. Esos son los tres puntitos que se encuentran arriba. Pulsen la interpretación del idioma y pulsen el idioma que ustedes deseen.
Thank you. At this time, interpretation will begin. Thank you. And at this time, I would like to welcome our presenters for this evening. Joining us today, we have Mr. Juan Lizama and Ms. Cynthia Covarrubias. They are both coordinators of translations and interpretations here in Prince William County Schools. Welcome.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Janet. Am I sharing?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This evening, we appreciate you having here Again, my name is Juan Lizama, here with my colleague Cynthia Covarrubias, and we lead the program of translation and interpretation services. This program has been in PWCS for about a decade, providing interpretation and translation services for our families here in Prince William County Public Schools. And so you will see later on the great diversity that we have within our school district. So our objectives for the session today is to give you an overview of the multicultural and linguistic tapestry in our schools, and also to provide you a quick overview of the regulations and laws that regulate language access in our schools, as well as the language access procedures and protocols at the division level, as well as the school level. And we're going to go through this journey with this fictitious family, the Rivera family, who are natives of El Salvador, which is one of our biggest groups here in the school district. And so they are newly arrived, and there will be going through the process of registering their daughter in the school system and getting services for them and the child as well. So probably, right, they might call the school, or they might go to the PWCS website and they might look for inscripción or matrícula for registration, right? Because that would be something that they would be interested in. So they would go to the sites, and hopefully this will let me in. So hopefully, right, if they type in matricula or inscripción, they will find this page for new student registration. And so as you can see, this main page is in English, but it also has the same information in our top languages for the division. So the top languages are Arabic, Chinese, Dari, Farsi, Korean, Pashto, Spanish, Urdu, and Vietnamese. So there is a team of translators that we lead that translate a lot of this information here on the website, as well as documents that go to families, and also through the communications department through different platforms. So of course they speak Spanish, right? So they would click on Español, and this is the information that they would have or that they would see on registration. And so here is the link that would take them directly to the form that they would have to complete for registering their child, the online registration form. And so the registration form also is in the top languages. So once they get to that registration form, they will be able to choose Espanol so that they can go through the registration form in Spanish. So as you will see also later, we have many, many languages. And of course, there is also a lot of content that is produced within our school system. And we cannot translate everything through a human translator. So for that, we also have additional languages and additional content that is automatically translated, or what is called machine translation. So this button over here offers additional languages in which families can see the information. So they would just click the button, and that automatically translates that information on the page. And it will provide a gist of what that content is. It is important to keep in mind that this is automatic translation, and that in some cases, the translation may not be accurate, or that it may lack some context, or it may look a little strange. But it does provide again, a gist of the content on the page. And so if families have questions, they can also get in touch with the contact people who are usually within these pages. All right. So when they go through the online registration form, one of the documents that families complete is the home language survey, which looks like this form on the screen. So it asks a lot of information, and some of the information that parents must complete are questions about languages. So like the first question is, what is the language that the student first acquired? What is the language most often that the student first acquired? What is the primary language used in spoken by the student? And what is also, in what language do you prefer to receive communication verbally and written? And so my colleague Cynthia Covarrubias will explain how we use that information and why this is very important for our school district.
Perfect. Thank you, Juan. So in celebrating our cultural and linguistic diversity, we used the information that comes through the online registration form in order to service the language needs of the parents as well as the language needs of the student or those involved in students' education. So that becomes very important for us. So I have a quick quiz. So our first question here is, can you guess how many countries are represented in Prince William County schools? You can type your answers in the chat and we'll take a look at it as they are coming in to see how many countries are represented. Do we have any takers? 15, a little more than 15. I see Roberta Fisher, a little bit more. 20, 18. Wow, a lot more, a lot more. It's higher. It's higher. More than 45. 56, getting up there a little bit more. All right, 59. No, a lot more. Okay, 267. Wow,
Wow.
267, a little less. I mean, very good, right? But
All right.
we're so very proud. So Juan, can you let us know how many are up?
Well, let's go to the
Okay.
next question
Okay,
first, and then we'll
next question,
reveal
and then
the
we'll share the
answers.
information.
Right.
We got some people who are close. Okay, can you guess how many home languages are present in Prince William County? That is definitely a lot higher than our birth countries. So please feel free to type that in the chat. Let's get another type in here going. 22. Who else? Who else? Any takers? Just type it in the chat. 12. A little more, a lot more than than the higher numbers. 17. All right. Any other takers? 30. A lot more. All right. 200. Getting hot. Getting hot. All right, Juan. Can you bring up the slides there?
Wow, Fanny Reese is on fire. She was the
Yeah.
one who was the closest for
The
both.
closest? All right. That's great to hear. So, as you can see here, our families come from 158 birth countries. The United States being our top birth country, followed now by Afghanistan, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala. They kind of round out the top five besides our people born in the United States. Uh, so we are very diverse. We are the 10th most diverse school district in the nation, one of the largest in Virginia, and we are very proud to serve our vast majority of students from these countries and the families, right? Because it's always comes back to the families. Juan, the next slide, please.
Right?
And how many languages? We service 203 home languages. This information comes from the survey that we were just talking about. Our English speakers being our top, right? Then followed by Spanish, and then our other languages are Dari, Urdu, Arabic, and Pashto. Pashto is broken up as Northern and Southern. We understand that Pashto is one language, so they would come up there. But those are kind of our top languages. We do here at the school system service 9 essential languages: Spanish, Dari, Urdu, Arabic, Pashto, Farsi, Vietnamese, Korean, and Chinese being those top ones. We are very diverse in the language as well. And this information is pulled all, as well from the home language surveys. And then we gather that information and we keep track of it. And that's how kind of, and we keep track of it for the schools as well. So there's schools that are very diverse in their language as well as the division. All right, so time for your input. We have another question here. Why do you think it's important for our Prince William County schools to have this information about where families come from and the language they speak? Please feel free to type in the chat a couple answers there. And we'll monitor that as well. Any takers? Why do we think it's important for Prince William schools to have this information? And where families come from, the language they speak. Any takers? Okay, inclusion, yes, yes, that's very important. Any others? So other students can know about other languages. Yes, that is also, it helps us to better support our families and students. Yes, yes. That is very true. Yes, we support, increased communication between schools and families. Yes. Any others? We'll give it a few more seconds here. All right. We have a Spanish. We have a Spanish. Juan, do you want to, or do you want me? I'll translate it. It says it is needed because because it's the best way to get the information and help our students and our children. We're talking about Nepal. Yes. I'm assuming you're asking about the country. Nepal is one of the countries that is. Nepali is a language that is asked for, and a lot of we are more and more translating into Nepali, and we are getting a lot of students that speak Nepali. From Fanny, it says very important to be in the same page with the most important assets are children, and as a community, yes. To let people know that one of many, we are one people. Yes, that's very powerful. So a lot of great answers. So yes, that is why it's so important for us to have this information, right? It supports inclusive education, helps create welcoming environments for all students and families. We promote cultural awareness and respect. Also, we have tools where we're improving communication. We ensure that families receive information in languages they understand, which reduces misunderstandings and helps build trust amongst our community. So Prince William County is very rich. Our superintendent is very keen on having that information. We also are able to enhance the success of our students by using the language data to provide appropriate academic support, encourage parental involvement in learning. We also try to build strengths in the community engagement. By that, we mean we're out there building community like we are tonight between the schools and the families, reflecting the diversity of the communities in the schools program. So we're doing a whole lot of the work because of this language data. We are out there connecting with our communities like we are tonight. We are building the trust of students. We hope we are building this trust of the parents. You guys are essential to us being successful as well. In helping educate your students. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of the language access law. So the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, or national origin in programs and activities that receive federal financing. Assistance. Recipients of federal assistance, such as schools, must fulfill the Title VI obligations to provide translation interpretation to limited English proficiency students and parents. So those are, Title VI provides that. And then our Equal Education Opportunity Act expands on the requirements of Title VI by specifying that state and local education agencies must take appropriate action to remove language barriers that prevent equal participation. And then we also internally have our Prince William County Regulations 600-4 English Learners Program for K-12, K through 12 schools, which states that individual education programs, so the special education programs or IEP teams, must consider language needs of all English learners special needs as such, which relates to the IEP process, which is the individual education program process. So prior to conducting an IEP, 504, or MDR meeting, schools shall review parental responses from the home language survey to meet communications needs. So what we're doing with that is before an IEP, or if your child is a special needs child, we are reviewing the language needs in order to communicate appropriately and have that information sent out to you in your preferred language as the parent has requested. All right. So now we're kind of going into some other phases of what the Rivera family would be doing, right? So when we have new coming students, we have two centers that are the Global Welcome Centers. There's one where myself and Juan have an office down in Woodbridge at Rippon Middle School. We have our second center in Manassas here at Unity Braxton Middle School. So what the expectation is when the families come in and they're trying to, when filling out the information for the online registration, the family fills out that the child has a different, or the child has a language that they learn first, and that's what they speak. When we're registering the students, we would have the students come into the Global Welcome Center in order to be tested to determine the student's English level. So if it's a different language besides English, the student will come into would start their registration process at the Global Welcome Center and be tested. Then through what the testing yields, there's a subject matter test, there's a level placement, and then there is also testing that has a content crediting awarding. So especially at more at the upper levels where the children have been in content areas, there's accrediting that they can get additional credits depending on how they test, but they are seen at the Global Welcome Center. Juan, something additional to add there? I know you have a little bit more robustness to that.
Right. So for the required registration documents, the Global Welcome Center takes care of the translation of those required documents for registration. And so we work very closely with them on a daily basis to have those documents translated, such as transcripts, immunization records, or government IDs. And so in order to move that registration forward. And so the content credit awarding that is done through testing that in the student's home language, right? So if they pass those tests, they can get those additional credits, which helps them toward those required credits that they need for graduations. So once the registration is complete at the Global Welcome Center, then they release the student to the school for their final enrollment, right? So we see Sophia here on her first day of school, kind of scared and apprehensive because she's in a new environment. She doesn't know the language, but the schools have different resources to create welcoming environments to communicate with them. There are some schools where, like Carrydale, where they have a what they call an interpreters club, which is students who are paired up with new students and who speak that language, and they show the student around. They go to different places like the library to check out book, and they help them out with those interactions. There are also school parent liaisons, most of them who are bilingual and know their resources for language access and provided interpretation and communication. And all of that help the students feel welcome and acclimated as quickly as possible. And so at the school level, some of the resources that they have at their disposal are, for example, for translation, our program trains multilingual staff already in the schools to become qualified translators. So they have to go through written language testing and through training in order to become qualified translators so that they can help translate documents at the school level. And so for them, the translation process is that if there's a qualified translator in their building, then staff will go to them first for those translations if they need that translation in the language that that staff member is qualified for. If not, if there's no one, or if it's a different language that is needed, then they also have resources with other outside language services providers that can help with the translation of those documents to accommodate those needs. For interpretation, it's also a similar process. We train multilingual staff in the building to become qualified interpreters through verbal language proficiency and training. And so once they are trained, and we have different levels of training from basic to more complex interpretations such as special education and simultaneous interpretation for special events or training. And so again, for interpretation, staff would go to those qualified staff members first, right? If they are not available, then they have other resources that they can go to, such as telephonic interpretation. If someone is needing it in person, also they can go to those outside language services providers and request an interpreter for an in-person meeting, for something that is virtual in Zoom or any other virtual platform. And also, they have other AI-powered tools for some simple informational communication as well that they may be using now that AI is becoming more and more prominent in our society. So here is Mrs. Rivera on the left. There's a parent-teacher conference coming up, and she's worried that she's not going to be able to communicate with the teacher, but then she is happy to see that that the teacher has arranged, or the school has arranged, for an interpreter to be there so that the communication between her and the teacher can be in her preferred language, and so that they can talk about the academic progress of Sophia. And so the teacher might notice, again, this is just a possible scenario, that Sophia may be gifted, right? In a special subject. She's a fast learner. She does well in science or math. And she's just wondering whether Sophia is gifted, right? So then she refers Sophia to a coordinator for gifted education. And so here are the parents meeting with the gifted coordinator. And again, right, the coordinator also made sure that there was an interpreter present so that the communication could be clear and transparent, and that the parents understood exactly what the gifted education program is about and the requirements for moving forward and next steps. We might imagine a different scenario, right? There's a teacher who may be concerned about Sophia's learning, and she's wondering whether she might need some special support. And so again, the teacher might refer Sophia to a special education coordinator. And so here is the coordinator explaining what special education is. Maybe she's explaining what the next steps would be to find out whether the teacher's concerns are valid. They may be asking the parent whether she also has some concern and whether those concerns are similar to what the teacher has. And of course, she also makes sure that an interpreter was present. And so to make the story short, here is the Rivera family a year later, feeling a little bit definitely more confident, right? Because they found the support needed in the language, both the parent and the child, and they feel confident of their new environment. So again, we have all the schools have free interpretation and translation services. There are also the same services at the division level. So parents can request interpretation whether they go to the school and they don't have a schedule visits. Once they get to the front office, they can request an interpreter, and again, either they can provide interpretation through a qualified staff member that is already there, or at the very least, if that staff member is not available, then they can use the telephone right there and then to provide interpretation. And so that communication can happen. Again, interpretation can be requested for scheduled meetings. So if you are being contacted by a school staff for you to come in for a meeting, then you can make sure that I need an interpreter. Please make sure that one is there for me at the meeting. Also, for school events, you can also request interpretation. If it's, again, a parent-teacher conference or maybe back to school night or some special training that the school is having, you can also request interpretation. Also for the division level, right? Some of you have requested interpretation for this event tonight, and you can also do the same for other events that are held at the division level. And then when calling, right, on the phone, again, you can ask for an interpreter. And again, that can be provided through a qualified staff or through a three-way call with an outside vendor. So please use the services. Again, they are free and no cost to you.
We want to put out there that it's as easy as coming into the front office, and we provide all schools a poster that has about 100 different languages on there where you can just point to your language of need, and someone in the front office will be able to identify it and get an interpreter on the phone for you. So it's as easy as that. So please feel free to come in and talk to us. And we've also put out additional tools for our staff members to also be able to interact. And Juan might touch upon those a little bit more in this slide, so I'll let him continue speaking. But I just wanted to put that out there that we have that wonderful poster where it's as easy as that.
Yes, and so some of you already touched on some of this important terms, right? So we hope that the success that the Rivera family found through using the language access that we provide and really getting the support and asking for the support that they needed, and also the school staff being mindful of creating those inclusive environments and providing the keeping the parents' needs in mind and providing interpretation, translation, and so that leads to inclusion of all families, and that provides equity and a level playing field for them to participate, get involved, and really be supported supportive of their children's academic performance and success. And that will ultimately lead right to you or the family feeling that you belong in the school, that you belong in PWCS. And that's our ultimate goal. And really, that's our purpose of for being here and providing this services. Oops. And lastly, you can contact us directly. So you will see on the screen our email and phone numbers. We welcome your calls if you have any questions or if you have some kind of request that maybe we can provide support with, please, you can contact us at any time. Again, here's also a QR code to our PWCS website. And for those Spanish speakers, PWCS does have a Facebook page in Espanol or Spanish. So please make sure to follow us. And so you will also get a lot of information in Spanish through that page. So a lot of what is published in the English Facebook page is also published in the Spanish Facebook page. And that is it for us. Any questions?
You're more than welcome to type the questions in the chat. We can see them and we can have our presenters answer if you have any questions. We'll give them a couple of seconds to see if any questions come in. It doesn't look like it, but please know that today's presentation was recorded, so you will be receiving a copy of today's recording. Once it's ready for viewing with captions and translations, we will post it to our website of recordings of past events. You will also receive a copy of today's presentation. And thank you for those of you who submitted questions in advance. We had quite a few questions about adult education and the gifted education program. So as I send a follow-up email to everyone tomorrow, I will make sure to include some of that information in the email. And please know that we actually have a gifted education session coming up December 16th for those of you that asked. And then we will have adult education in either January or February. So stay tuned for those. We will be posting the survey of today's session in the chat. I do ask that you just take a couple of minutes to fill it out to let us know how we're doing, and then any future presentations that you may want to see or are interested in seeing. So thank you to our presenters, Juan and Cynthia. As always, it's always a pleasure to have you. And thank you to all of you, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.